Some of you will not have had a chance to read this yet, but this was the abstract that I submitted that got this talk accepted. And
you do this one so you can roam. Sorry to interrupt.
So I can roam. Yeah, but I can also now hear the echo. One of the things that's fascinating to me is that we seem to accept that we need a lot of structure in the things that we do, and yet students don't seem to be aware of the structure that their courses impose on them. How many of you have done a makeup exam that is more difficult than the original exam for students? Why would you do that? You weren't intending to. I can tell you why I would, because I've had students with 7 grandmothers who managed to all pass in one semester, which suggests to me that if I don't make them harder, then it's going to be a problem. But then for the legitimate student who is ill, what's the downside of that? Here's someone who's fragile, come back probably too soon after being ill or injured. That is a structural practice that actually decreases well-being for those students who are fragile. So what do students want? Well, our students want predictability. They want fairness. And they are not necessarily as much in control of things as they like to think they are. I got too many things to wave around here. Any of you who have read this book, Generation Me, Why Today's Young Americans Are More Confident, Assertive, Entitled, and More Miserable Than Ever Before, which was a perfect follow-on to Millennials Rising, will know that supposedly our students are different now. But they're different in ways that are actually counterintuitive. Locus of control is a construct that psychologists look at because we're interested in where people believe their control exists, whether or not they can have an impact on their lives. And in the 70s, most college and university students, and by most I mean over 70%, had a high internal locus of control. I'm in control of my destiny. By the early 2000s, that was down to less than 30%. This means that students don't feel in control, and we don't help them if we don't make things really, really transparent. This is related to another construct called hardiness. And there's a focus in hardiness research in this idea of what are the components of academic hardiness if we focus in on that. One is, am I willing to accept things as a challenge? Well, if I know what they are, maybe I will accept them as a challenge instead of something that is distressing. Is this something I want? Do I have a commitment to achieving this? Many of you will have come across situations where colleagues, do I really want a degree in? Do I really, et cetera, et cetera. But the one that I think is most important, and this is the one where I've been focusing some attention, is do I have control? And do I have control over my effort, which is a big one, because if I have a challenge that I've accepted, a commitment to doing well, then I can adjust my level of effort because I have control over that. But the other big one for well-being is control of emotions. Can I put things in an emotional context so that they are useful for me to motivate me to do the stuff that I need to do? Now, I also have to be concerned about my well-being. I teach the huge intro classes, so I have, in the fall semester, I'll have 800 to 900 students. This creates a bit of a challenge if I did create make-up exams for every student who was legitimately sick. Also, students want to know something about the process that we're going through to assess them. We all know that massed practice cramming, or the coast, cram, and flush model, is not a good way to learn stuff. But even though we know distributed practice is really, really a good thing, we use massed assessment. Massed assessment is a real anxiety-provoking situation. One midterm, one exam. So I've restructured my courses to benefit both students and me. My courses now have 4 exams, the best 3 of which count. If you miss an exam because you're ill, of course it gets 0, and that's the one that's going to drop. But it means that you're not going to get hit on the head when you come back having to do a more difficult make-up exam. I have 7 quizzes. I use iClickers. 6 of them count. Again, everybody can have a brain dead day. Everyone can have that opportunity to collapse. And I wanted to know whether or not students were actually aware of these structural issues as to how it helped them deal with learning and their anxiety. So I asked the simple question. The multiple assessments of this course, exams 3 of 4, quizzes 6 of 7, and the assignment reduced my overall anxiety about learning the course material. This is the results I get. Students are aware of it, and they know that the structural things have a real impact. Not only that, the scheduling and distribution of the graded components throughout the semester. With that many components, of course, they're all weighted much more evenly. Throughout the semester contributed to my learning. Because I'm assessing more often, because it is distributed in a way they don't feel whacked on the side of the head with a huge assessment at any given point, and they believe it contributes to their learning of material. I also asked them about the use of clickers, and I'll tell a quick story there. I walked into a bank on Sunday, and one of the tellers said, "Oh, here comes the king of the eye clickers. Hello, Dr. Day." I gather I'd been a student of mine through a couple of courses. Yes, they believe that it contributes to their learning. And the final thing is, are they meta-aware of what helps them learn? And they are. But we have to remind them. We have to be constantly helping the students recognize that they are learning an enormous amount. Not just the content of the course, but how to study, how to take care of themselves, how to survive at the university. If we don't highlight that for them, they don't recognize it as important learning, and it is very important. Thank you. Questions?